All right, welcome to the October meeting of Central Park United Neighbors. I'm Amanda Alshouse. I'm the president of CPUN, and I'll be hosting tonight. But we have the majority of our board on the call as well, and we'll be here to we'll have some public comment at the beginning of the second hour. Yeah, maybe a little bit earlier if there's a time to get into it then. But we will, let's just go ahead and dive in into the agenda. Nope. All right.
This one or
First,
the agenda, Amanda? Sorry.
is this whatever's first? Is this the first one?
It is.
Okay, well then let's just talk about what CPUN is so everyone knows where they are. So Central Park United Neighbors is the registered neighborhood organization for the Central Park community in Denver. And our purpose is threefold: to be a working forum for residents to participate in pursuing the vision of the neighborhood by creating, developing, and fostering a vibrant urban community dedicated to social equity, environmental responsibility, and economic opportunity. We're a vehicle for public service. We seek to promote civic discourse, and we hope to achieve an environment where people are more likely to help each other out and to be there for their neighbors. Okay, and we're different from an HOA. We don't charge dues to our members. So an RNO is not an HOA, and RNO is not the MCA. These are all separate entities. Okay. All right, and so then our agenda tonight. So a lot of the time we have a featured speaker in the first hour. We don't have that for tonight, but we do have a number of announcements, and that gives us some flexibility to just have just a more informal discussion, which is arguably lacking from some of the more full agendas that we have for our monthly meetings. And then in the second hour, we do have a very full agenda. So we might kind of bring a little bit forward if we finish early, but we'll just see how things go. We're starting with updates from community partners, as we typically do. And then we'll get into some announcements that we have on behalf of our organization. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll dive into the second half of the meeting. Everyone's welcome to stay for the full 2 hours. Okay, so frequently here we'll start with Denver Police. I was really late getting the link over. I just saw the email within the last hour that the group that was attending tonight needed it. And so let's hope that someone is on the call, but I can see how it might be the case that no one was able to. Oh, I can see Officer Kier Jenkins. Great, I'll turn it over to you.
It's Sergeant Dunn from District 5.
Well, hello, Sergeant Dunn.
Hi, I'm representing Lieutenant Hines. Just give you an update of what's been going on in the Sector 1 area, which is 511, which is 512 also, which is Northfield and Stapleton area, or Central Park area. So in 511, we've had an increase of 26 stolen vehicles in the last few weeks, as up from 21. Mainly Fords, GMCs, and Kias, mainly in the Northfield area. We've been seeing a lot of them basically being left unlocked. This corresponds with our top 10 stolen vehicles in the Denver metro area, which Officer Jenkins has been able to post recently on Nextdoor. But basically, it's a Chevy Silverado pickup truck from 1999 to 2007 series, Honda Civics from 92 to 2002, Ford F-250s 99 to 2006, Honda Accords 1990 to 97, and Ford F-350s 99 to 2007. That takes out the top 5. We've also been seeing an increase in the area of stolen catalytic converters. So people are basically calling work trucks and vans.
Oh, I think that we're having some trouble hearing you.
Individuals.
Can you back up just a hair? We missed a little bit of the last thing that you were. Oh dear, and he's gone. Officer Jenkins, do you want to go through any announcements while we're waiting for
Yeah.
the sergeant to join us back again? Okay, thanks.
So we have 2 community events. I apologize if some of you were on this morning, so you'll hear this again. The first is our drug take back. That's going to be this Saturday, October 24th from 10 to 2, and it's going to be held at a few locations. It'll be held at the King Soopers on 2810 North Quebec Street, as well as 10406 East MLK Boulevard, and also at the Denver Police Station, which is 4685 Peoria Street. Again, that'll be from 10 to 2. You can bring anything that's expired or that you no longer want, and we will safely dispose of the prescription medications. And then the second is the one that we're all excited about, which is our Halloween party. We were able to work with the CDC on getting organized a contactless, safe event where you can drive through, and we'll have trunks where you can trunk or treat without getting out of your vehicle and contacting anybody. We will all be wearing masks and wearing gloves, so we're extremely excited about that. And that's going to be on Saturday, on Halloween, and that's going to be from 3 to 6 at Lincoln Tech Early College, which is located at 11194 East 45th Avenue.
That's great.
And I think what my sergeant was just talking about was the catalytic converters that are being taken from vehicles. But I'm here for questions if anybody has any.
Thanks. And I have the trunk or treat in a slide later on to in case there's anyone that joins later. And then we'll get something out about the drug take back as well. It seems like there have been a lot of stolen vehicles, but I know that that's not limited to just this community. That wasn't part of the crime summary that that was discussed tonight. Is there more of an unanticipated spike than usual, or how does what we're seeing fit into what's happening regionally?
So with what's going on with COVID, we've just seen an increase because they're not holding as many folks in the jail that they would normally have kept in the jail. So these, criminals are getting out on bond, and then they're conducting more auto thefts. But the other part is a lot more people since they're working from home, there's a lot more cars that are being parked on the streets all hours of the day now. And they're being left unattended and unlocked. So it's just a lot easier for somebody to come and grab really quick and take off. So.
Okay.
He's back, Amanda.
Okay. All right, Sergeant, would you like to go ahead and finish what you were saying? We just heard from Officer Jenkins about the 2 announcements, 2 events that are coming up this month.
All right, sorry about that. I got kicked out. So anyway, what I was saying is we've had a lot of car thefts and catalytic converter thefts, but we've also had a lot of garage burglaries. We've seen an increase in that, people leaving their garage doors open. So we're trying to remind everybody to please shut their garage doors and help prevent some of those burglaries. Also, with the colder temperatures arriving soon, we're going to be seeing more increasing what we call puffing, people warming up their cars early in the morning, which tends to lead to a lot more auto theft. So we'd like to remind everybody not to puff their vehicles. Remote start's all right if you have that built into your car, but please do not puff your vehicles because it will increase the auto thefts in your neighborhood. Recently, we've done a lot of extra patrols, including pedestrian safety grants, which is where we put some decoy officers out in the crosswalks, and we call out any violations to waiting police cars nearby to contact the drivers and educate them about the safety of crosswalks. That time, that's all I have right now. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, what intersection did you use for those pedestrian crossings?
We've used 23rd in Central Park, and we've done 35th in Central Park in the last couple weeks.
How many vehicles were contacted?
I believe on the 35th one, we contacted about 20 vehicles in just a couple hours. And then the one at 23rd and Central Park, it was probably about 15 vehicles, I think.
In how many hours?
Just about 2.
Okay. Okay. And I know you're completely administratively separate from Denver Public Schools, but with the cut of busing, is there any chance that with elementary kids going back and all buses being cut, that intersections would be patrolled to make them safer? The 2 that you just named would be places where people would cross to get to either Bill Roberts on the south side or Swigert on the north side.
Yes, so our traffic officers routinely hit school zones in the morning and afternoons, which is our motorcycle officers. Currently, our traffic position in District 5 is open at the moment, but we're going to fill it hopefully very soon. In the meantime, what we do is we reach out to the traffic motorcycle unit sergeants and see if we schedule officers to occasionally hit those school zones, which they do routinely hit them occasionally. I've recently seen them out on Central Park down towards the school closer towards about 23rd. That's the one down towards Bill Roberts, I believe. I saw them there. I know they've hit the Inspire up on 56 in Galena. So they've been in a few of the different school zones.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other questions? Okay, thanks. I know that Officer Jenkins mentioned that she would stay around for questions. I don't see anything in the chat right now, but I think that she'll be here for a few minutes if anyone, oh, I haven't looked at the chat. Okay, so Lily, you have your camera on. Let's hear from you next, please.
Hi, I'm Lily from the Sam Gary branch of the Denver Public Library. Sadly, the physical building of the library is still closed, but all of our materials are available to the public, and we are doing curbside pickup and outside services right now. We were getting ready to open right before the mayor announced the new safety regulations, so we are not proceeding with opening at this time, but we will see. We're watching the numbers. And yeah, we are still doing virtual programming as well, and all of that can be found on our website. I'll just share those links in the chat, but that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lily. Eric Herbst with Northeast Transportation Connections.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, so we have a few updates that we've been working on currently. I should back up and just, for anybody that doesn't know us, we are the Northeast Transportation Connections. So we're the transportation nonprofit in kind of Northeast Denver. So we work to reduce congestion, improve air quality. So we work with a lot of businesses and commuters and kind of that commuter traffic. Right now we have what's called our Go-tober commuter challenge. So it's every year, the month of October, that we challenge different businesses to compete against each other to change up their commutes of their employees and track those trips. We're kind of open that up this year to anybody. You don't have to have your business signed up. So anybody can go on and track their trips, and there's weekly prizes. It's been a lot of fun this year because we're also counting teleworking. So it's really easy for a lot of people to go on and just track all their telework trips for the week. And then it enters you to win prizes and then just kind of boost the region's kind of data on who's teleworking and who's commuting and how people are getting to work. Some other programs we've been working on is there's a e-bike program where we just identified 13 participants from Northeast Denver where they received an e-bike from the state of Colorado. They're testing out the e-bikes. These are specifically low income and essential workers. And these 13 participants will help inform what the program looks like and how it rolls out in the spring of 2021. So we'll be bringing kind of more of that to you in the spring when there'll be more opportunity for more people to join that program. They really just participants have to give feedback on how they use the bikes. and then they get to keep this bike at the end of the program. It's a really nice brand new e-bike we've been working with the Slow High Bike Shop down on Colfax. So that's been a pretty fun program that we've been working on. Let's see, we just finished our annual commuter survey with the city of Denver. So that just finished on Sunday. So we'll let you guys know the results of that for kind of Northeast Denver and how people are commuting in the region. One other thing that I wanted to mention to the group is there's an opportunity, again, with biking. If people are out there and they're biking to work or biking for errands, there's a program for a smart cycling study. So there's opportunity to apply to get a smart bike light. The bike light would track you on your bike when you take trips, and it would anonymously give that data to the city, where they would kind of identify the major corridors where people are biking, so they can have better data on where people are actually biking, and where they need to spend kind of maybe more attention on that infrastructure. They're accepting 300 people for that program. And Amanda, I can send you that flyer with like the QR code to apply, and maybe we can get that up on social media or out to the group.
Thank you. Yes, please send it.
That's kind of the majority of our programs right now. I'll keep you posted on anything else that comes up.
And so this is a city program. Are they looking for, like, do they have like buckets of where they want people to enroll from across the city, like by zip code, or are they just taking whoever comes first?
Yeah, so it's in partnership with the Downtown Denver Partnership, which is basically the TMA, kind of our sister company for downtown, or our sister nonprofit. So they've been working with all the TMAs within Denver. So there's like 4 of them, and they've really been pushing to try to get equal representation kind of across the city and the county of Denver. And so we're here to try to push that along to you guys and to all the neighborhoods that we work with. So we'll be posting kind of more about that, and then I'll send you that information. So that they're trying to be strategic with who they get and who they accept to try to get like a broader picture of what that looks like for a bike community.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Are there any questions for Eric? Okay. Let's see. Amanda Schultz from Councilman Herndon's office.
Yeah, hi. Just a quick reminder about ballot drop boxes. I'm sure everyone has heard several times that those are available. And one other feature from Denver elections that I can tell you I personally love, which is ballot trace. If you haven't signed up for it, it's super easy. And you can make sure that your ballot was actually counted. It gives you a notification all the way through the process. Other than that, I don't have any specific announcements, but I'm going to be around until the end as well. So feel free to send me a message or shoot me an email if you have any questions or concerns.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. All right. Is there anyone else here who has a general announcement to make?
Amanda, I have an update from the MCA this evening.
Oh, I meant to actually ask you first. Sorry. Thanks, Jack. Please talk about the MCA.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to let everybody know we just wrapped up, not last weekend, but the weekend before, our farmers market for the year. It was a great turnout this year, given the COVID and all of the restrictions that we had in place. We are very pleased with how that went. So thank you to all of you who were able to join us at the farmers market this year. Really was great. Also, last week, the MCA wrapped up our $300,000 alley replacement project for the year. We replaced about 15 miles of concrete, which came to about $300,000. I know 15 miles doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that cost us $300,000. So we're very happy that we were able to get that done. We replaced concrete based on need when it presents a safety hazard usually, or there's a drainage issue. I also want to let everyone know that the MCA is just assumed ownership and management responsibility for some new parks in the Wicker Park neighborhood area. They are tracks TOS 03 and TOS 04. let's see here. I'm sorry, it's TOS 29 and TOS 04. Between the two of them, it's about 13 more acres of park space. These are the parks that run along Prairie Meadows Drive there, east of Central Park Boulevard and Dallas Street, adjacent to the Cisco property running north-south along Dallas Street at Northfield Boulevard. We've assumed possession of both of those. We're working on our long-term planning for what those two park properties will look like. Right now, they're just native grasses, but we are hoping to develop those out with some additional park facilities. We have also joined with our partners at Denver Parks and Recreation for the planning of the expansion of the Northfield Athletic Complex. So that's a 71-acre plot of land that expands all the way from Northfield High School there to Prairie Meadows Drive. The early stages of our planning are going to be some sports fields and different sports apparatus there to join with the existing athletic complex. We're still working on identifying funding for that development, and then the management will ultimately be a shared partnership between the MCA and Denver Parks and Rec. I also wanted to, the MCA continues to spend a lot of money and a lot of time dealing with graffiti throughout the neighborhood. So far this year, we've spent $15,000 on graffiti removal. So if you do notice graffiti, please visit our website or give us a call, report that so we can get the graffiti cleaned up. We've also seen a surge in homeless camps throughout the neighborhood, which it's an alarming surge that we're seeing in hazardous and otherwise unsanitary conditions, including hypodermic needles, human feces, and in some cases loaded guns and illegal drugs. So the MCA is working with our partners at Parks and Rec and the police department to clean up those issues when they arrive. So again, if you do observe homeless camps or whatnot, we'd encourage you to call the Denver Police Department to report those, and then we will work with them to remedy any health issues. I also, finally, I know I have a longer report today, so finally, I want to make a call for delegates to serve as an MCA community delegate. All 12 districts are open for election at our annual meeting in December. If you're interested in being a delegate for your portion of the neighborhood, please visit our website to learn how you can get nominated and be on the ballot. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions for the MCA, and I will be here for the rest of the meeting. Thanks, Amanda.
Rick.
Yeah, Jack, Rick Luthold here. I serve also on the transportation committee for Central Park United Neighbors. And one of the questions that we've had from several neighbors is along that Park Meadows Drive east of Central Park, as it goes over to the industrial area there. Truck traffic, vehicle traffic, that kind of thing. And we always have known that those open spaces were going to develop parks. Those are the ones you mentioned here this evening. But if you could loop me into some of those discussions, or who I should be looped in with, I'd like to kind of stay appraised of that and kind of continue to talk a little bit about the increased traffic that we see on Park Meadows there because of those. I've been talking about ball fields, and we all know what kind of traffic ball fields and soccer fields and that kind of thing generate. And so I just want to, between ourselves and the city's transportation division and MCA, as you develop those out, that we continue to keep those kind of thoughts in mind too. So.
Sure, and when it comes to, we don't have in our plans at this point any additional parking facilities that is in addition to the on-the-street parking, but we can definitely loop you into those conversations as we continue to build out there. But at this point, we do not anticipate adding any additional parking. We're actually looking at removing some parking to keep tractor trailers out of the area. There are some streets that haven't yet been turned over to the city that we're looking at perhaps getting them designated no parking so that the semi trucks don't show up in the area. So we'll loop you in there so that we can continue to have those conversations.
Yeah, and all of those things would come into play if we don't have off-street parking for those folks like we have. My grandkids are in a couple of soccer and baseball teams. And there's a few parks that we visit down south and that kind of thing that have absolutely no on-street or off-street parking, and that also has an impact on the neighborhoods and that kind of thing. And like you say, the truck traffic through there, both those that are overnighting there versus those that are coming through the area, lots of rules and regulations on them. And again, there's been some previous outcry on Park Meadows about vehicle speed and volumes there. So appreciate it, Jack.
Absolutely.
Jack, I have a question about signage. I've been contacted by a reporter and also a community member the reporter was asking for like updates on signage in the community for the name change. I know that you were involved with removing the word Stapleton from signs. Do you know anything about replacing or adding Central Park to any physical presences?
Yeah, and you know that we had a mad dash there back in June when we announced that we would be moving forward with a name change to take everything that said Stapleton down. And now that we have transitioned to the Central Park moniker, it's going to take some time. That is our intention to get some information up that says Central Park. But it's going to take us some time. We need to have, new signage manufactured. We need to figure out where, things need to go and whatnot. And the MCA, along with the city of Denver, our budget outlook is not as optimistic as we would have hoped for this time. So there's not a whole lot of working revenue to make those replacements. New signs have been installed in parks regarding park rules and whatnot, but those signs just have the Master Community Association moniker. We haven't yet put anything up that says Central Park. Our marketing team is still working on, what they want that to look like and where we want to put that and whatnot. And I mean, I'd be happy to speak with reporters and residents about kind of our long-term, get more into the specifics about that. But the short answer is it's going to take us some time just to get everything put back up. And, our budget shortfalls are definitely not making that job any easier.
Okay, but are there any current instances of Stapleton that still exists in signage, or
No.
is everything down? It's all down.
I can't. There are private businesses that.
No, you can't. Yeah, I know you're not responsible for that, but just in terms of the MCA and maybe if you know about Brookfield.
So I spoke with Brookfield last week. Between Brookfield, the MCA, and our partners at the City and County of Denver, anything that says the word Stapleton has been removed. We did a pretty comprehensive check of that. We had a whole team of people that we scoured the neighborhood looking for anything that still said Stapleton. So I can say with confidence that it has all been removed with the exception of private businesses.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other questions for Jack on behalf of the MCA? Who's answering on behalf of the MCA? Okay, all right. So are there any other announcements that anyone would like to make? Just general public announcements or just saying hi? Okay. Next slide, Brian. Oh, okay.
That's the next slide.
Hi, everybody. This is Jeff Horsfall. I'm VP of Central Park United Neighbors. When we adopted that name for our organization, we subsequently announced a contest to design our new logo. After announcing that contest, we had some very generous offers to help fund a prize for the winner of that. But having that arrive midstream made us stop and think about how we can best take advantage of that opportunity, but also manage this process in a fair and transparent way. So what we really decided to do was to hit pause on the competition or contest while we regrouped around the idea of a prize, which wasn't there in the original plan. Currently we have an open call for prize donations. Our goal is to collect up to $1,000. This would be a prize that goes to the logo to the designer of the logo that's selected. To date, we've collected $600 in donations from Control Freak, a audio-visual integrations company owned by CPUN board member Mandel Rousseau, as well as from Primrose Schools of Denver, their Central Park location. We've reached out to Central Park Greater Business Association, and through our own communication channels to solicit other donations. Any organization that would like to contribute has until October 26th to do so, and you're welcome to email me, and I can help you take care of that. It would be much appreciated. Once that deadline is reached, we have the total number for the prize firmed up, we will then reopen a call for logo submissions with this new information, with a prize available for the selected logo. That open call will run from October 27th through November 24th. Submissions can go to our Central Park United Neighbors email address. Just want to reiterate that you do not need to be a professional designer. Amateurs, aspiring designers are welcome. You do not need to be a resident. Anyone is welcome to submit a logo if they would like to do so. Any questions about eligibility or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to answer. From there we'll have a outreach committee review to identify 3 to 5 submissions that we'd like to bring to the community for a vote, which will take place December 7th through the 11th. And then it's our intention to announce or unveil the selected logo, the results of a community vote on December 15th.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there any questions about the logo, prize money, or the contest itself? Okay, thank you. Brian, next slide, please. Okay, so for anyone who hasn't lived here during Halloween before, it's typically a pretty big event. But in the context of the current situation, I met with members of the MCA, and we listed out a few ways to celebrate this year, opportunities to celebrate, including the Denver Police drive-through trunk or treat. There's also the Boo on the Bluff. And these are events that have had an eye to keeping things safe in terms of social distancing and any other cleaning precautions that need to be taken. And so at the link at the very bottom of this slide, and also on the MCA's website, you can find more events that are located across the city. And then on the next slide, there's also a sign that's available for anyone who chooses to hang this. It seems like it might be easier if people who don't intend to give out candy are using the same sign. It just helps, just check from the street that it's not a door that should be knocked on. So this is also something that we designed, and it's available for people to download and print at home. From the MCA's website, and we've linked to it from our Facebook page, and we included this in our most recent community email last Friday.
Is that, Amanda, that's on MCA website or CPUN website?
It's on the MCA's website. Is this now confusing because I'm listing things that are on the that are on the MCA's website, and I'm not a member of the MCA. So we did work together on this, and a community member contacted me and asked like what to do about Halloween, and so that prompted a joint meeting between the two groups, and so they had a person who was able to put this together. I don't do graphics anyway, so they did this, and it's hosted on their site.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. Okay, next slide. Okay, I do graphs, not graphics. So these are my graphs. So in thinking back on just the major announcement that Mayor Hancock made last week, I just thought it was something that we should be sure to cover during our monthly meeting today. And I have the changes on the next slide, but just I wanted to give that the context of what rates look like for COVID in Colorado. So on the far left here, it's just the cumulative number. It's, you know, forever marching up as it has to do as a cumulative number. And it's just really starting to arch and point upwards a little bit more strongly in these recent days, weeks. In that middle plot, each of the tiny dots is a day's rate, and you can see that dancing around the average line there. We've had some awfully high rates quite recently in Colorado. And then on the far right, it's just those dark lines from that middle plot zoomed in a bit more so you can see them more clearly. And so we've had an average over the past 7 days of over 1,000 cases a day, which puts us on a trajectory to cross 100,000 cases in Colorado in the next 2 weeks. But you know, the fortunate thing is that if you're looking at the hospitalizations and deaths, there's not quite the same parallel action happening with hospitalizations and deaths as we had in the earlier months. So perhaps vulnerable people are better protected. More treatments are known and available, but there is still a limit to resources that are going to be available should a person need to be hospitalized. And so wearing a mask and practicing social distancing is what we've been asked to do by our mayor and by our governor. So on the next slide, is just the pronouncement that came out last week asking that everyone wear a face covering in public and reduce any gatherings from 10, I guess it was previously 10, to no more than 5. And this includes gatherings in private residences. And so this is going to be the case until further notice, but at least for the next 30 days from when this was announced last week. And then they also mentioned efforts to assure compliance through enforcement. So because most of the community here is in Denver, it's just important that people are aware of this being the expectation for how we're going to protect each other at this time. Are there any questions?
We've, the MCA, along with our partners at Denver Parks and Rec, we've seen an increase in large scale gatherings in the parks. So I want to reiterate that, you know, the 5-person requirement, you know, the park rangers will write you a ticket. In the MCA's case, we can't write you tickets like park rangers can, but the police definitely can. So, you know, if you're gathering in large groups in any park in the community, there is a high likelihood that you will be contacted. And my understanding from my most recent conversations with our colleagues with Denver Park Rangers is that, you know, they've been instructed to issue citations and not warnings.
What is this looking like for playgrounds?
The playgrounds will remain open. We closed them for a portion of the stay-at-home order. We reopened them. We do not anticipate them closing at this point in time based on the current regulations, but you know, you can't have a group size larger than 5 at the playground. And if you're within 6 feet of another person, you got to have a mask on. We recommend that you wear a mask anytime you're in a park. Again, that's a recommendation. That's the MCA certainly can't enforce that rule. Only the city would, and the city, their regulations say that you can't have you have to wear a mask when you're within 6 feet of another person. So, you know, I think this is new information for all of us at the MCA, as well as our colleagues that are park rangers. And so we will be working together to make sure that we're all staying safe while enjoying our 14,000 acres of open space.
Thanks, Jack. Anything else about this? Okay, next slide. Oh, okay. And I think this is the last thing, and it's also the last thing on your ballot. But as I participated in the Denver Public Schools CPAC, which was a very large group of community members who came together in the spring and ended up meeting remotely to go over the list of needs that Denver Public Schools has, but cannot meet because of the way that their hands are tied through funding. And so the way that they, the option that they have for moving forward is to have an additional mill levy listed here and a bond. So the bond can fund projects, like one-time instances of a need of funding, and the mill levy can fund things that need to happen over time. So from the mill levy, they'll be able to fund things like staff and salaries, and as is listed here. And then from the bond, that's where schools that don't have air conditioning would be, a lot of 24 of them will have air conditioning. When I called around to each of the area schools, one of the principals for a school in the Central Park community said that something that the Northeast Denver region needs is a new campus for Montbello High School. And so this is $130 million for a school that's not in this community, but it was specifically listed as a need by one of the principals for a school here. And other funding will be available for smaller renovation projects within older schools, such as libraries and gyms and cafeterias. We're very lucky that a lot of the all of the buildings that we have here, our community isn't more than 16 or 17 years old. And so all of the schools are at least that new, and a lot of them much newer. And so, of course, a lot of this funding goes to schools across the region, but in the end, it's going to create a stronger public school system, which will then benefit all of whom are participating in it. So I don't think that we as an organization are taking a position on this, but I feel as good as you can about, there's a list of needs that's much, much, much longer than what's being met by this ballot initiative and mill levy. And it's hard to decide where that money goes. But there was an eye for equity in all of the decisions that were made, and that's very important. And on the Denver ballot website, there's no organized opposition listed for either of these measures. And so I just wanted to give you all of that information. So there you are. Please be informed voters and know that there are very, very few ways that our public schools can obtain funding. And this is really one of the only ways that they can go about doing it. And so it's important for the schools to have this funding. Are there any questions about that? Okay. I think that might be it for slides for the outreach meeting. Okay, so we can either take a break, or we can just kind of dive into a bit of the board meeting. Is anyone willing to just kind of move forward, or are there any general questions that anyone has? Should we have more open discussion? There's silence. There's silence and the sound of people hanging up. Okay.
Power forward. Go, Amanda, go.
Let's keep
power
moving.
Forward.
Power forward, people. Okay. And more sounds of people hanging up. Okay. All right. So here's the agenda for the board portion of the meeting. So we're going to start with community comments. And given that I was just kind of asking for that and there wasn't any, I'm wondering if we will have any. Let's try again. Are there any general comments from the community, or anyone that just wants to say hi and introduce themselves? And then after that, we'll ask the members of the candidates for membership on the CPUN Board of Directors. We'll ask them to introduce themselves again after that. So are there any general comments or introductions that anyone would like to make? All right. Community comment is passed. Let's move forward to talking about our new slate of board members. Jeff.
Yeah, did you want to talk a little bit
I
about?
do have more to say. It's amazing that you knew that. Thanks for telling me that I did. So before we get going with the slate, I just wanted to note that, knowing that there was enthusiasm for membership in CPUN, and, knowing that people's commitments and time sort of have ebbs and flows. We put a general call out to our board members and asked if anyone sort of foresaw a change in their schedule that might make it an appropriate time for them to step down. And we did have a board member who responded to that ask and said that she could see that someone with incoming enthusiasm might better fit the needs of the board than what she foresaw herself having to offer. And so Erin Jones is, I don't think she's on the call tonight, but she has stepped down from CPUN. She was with us for 8 years. Early on, she was active in helping coordinate the kickball tournament that we had been hosting annually. And some of her most recent contribution was back in February when we hosted, with help from Denver Public Library and with help from the MCA, with space from the MCA at the Cube, a screening of The Mask You Live In. She and I both have boys, and it's a movie that, or a documentary demonstrating ways that masculinity is addressed in our culture. And so that was a screening that we hosted, followed by a facilitated discussion. And so she was very helpful in getting that together. So I've appreciated her work on the board for these past 8 years. And I also appreciate her reflection and determining that now is the time for her to pass the torch on to new hands. So I hope that you'll all join me in thanking Erin for her service with CPUN these past 8 years. Gonna give a little silent clap for Erin who's not on the call tonight. Okay, I'll tell her to watch the recording.
Thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with our nominating process, I was a member of a nominating committee alongside fellow board members Mandel Rousseau, Carol Hunter, and Mark Maringer, that was responsible for making recommendations to the board at large about a slate of candidates to fill 4 available seats with Erin's departure. After the renaming effort was completed, we had somewhat unprecedented interest in our board from more candidates than we had open seats. I think it's the first time in over more than a decade that that's happened. And all of those candidates were very impressive. All people with a active and long-standing commitment to contributing to this community and to their community. So it was not an easy process to go through. Anyone that expressed an interest in joining the board was asked to first submit a letter and then had a 30-minute interview with the nominating committee. The nominating committee then made recommendations to the board at large in a executive session about about the slate of candidates that we'd like to vote on tonight. Shortly, I'll ask all of those candidates to introduce themselves in the order that they're listed here, if that's okay with everybody. I'd love for the community to get to know them right away. Once they've done that, the board will be voting on the slate. The slate will be voted on in full rather than as individual candidates. This is a board-only vote. And what that does is bring that slate of candidates onto the board until our annual meeting in May, at which point the community at large will have an opportunity to vote on any new candidates or new board members, as well as any end of term board members. We typically cycle through about half the board every 2-year term. So again, tonight we'll just be following the introductions, we'll just be, the board itself will just be voting on this slate, and we look forward to having all four of these folks joining us here on Central Park United Neighbors. With that,
I have one comment.
Please.
Because of the way the terms were on the board, all four of these people will be up for re-election at the annual time. So they're filling the remaining terms of so that I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
I specifically had that question. Thank you for proactively answering it, Brian.
Oh, was I not clear that only through, what were you saying, Brian?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It is, they will all be up for election. They'll have to re-up again in the annual meeting. Yeah.
That's right. And at which point it's the community vote,
yep.
not just a board vote. Yeah, excuse me. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for
a community vote on the whole slate. And
exactly.
like we present the slate to the community, kind of like how the nominating committee has done it now, and then they vote up or down. And
yeah, exactly. And sorry if that wasn't clear. Thank you. I know Jamie's here. Jamie, do you mind saying hello?
Hi, I'm Jamie Hodgkins. So I am happy to be a part of Central Park United Neighbors. I've lived here since 2014. I have a 2-year-old, and I'm a professor at the University of Colorado, Denver in anthropology. And I've been sort of coming to the meetings sort of consistently since about 2015. So I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I can lend some help to the community.
Thank you, Jamie. Gina, are you there?
I am. Hi, everyone. My name is Regina Jones. I do go by Gina. I've been in the Central Park area for the last going on 8 years, but I was raised up in Park Hill. I am looking forward to being on this board. Have a lot of exciting things that's ready to get started.
Thanks, Gina.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Gina. Brad?
Yeah, hi everybody. Brad Rivera. I'm really excited to join the board, and my wife and an 18-month-old daughter live in the South End, so you can find us most days on the Greenway chasing after dogs. And I'm an attorney by training, and currently work for an organization called Colorado Succeeds, where I help set up partnerships between our education system here in Colorado and different businesses around the state. But really just excited to get really passionate about what we could do here around transportation and sort of inclusiveness too. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Finally, Jack.
Yes, hi everyone. You heard from me earlier. Jack Seward. I work for the MCA. I've been here in Central Park my entire life. I moved in the neighborhood in 2002. My family and I live in house number 5 in filing number 2. So I've been here a while. Very excited to be involved with the board here, and I look forward to all the work we'll do together.
Thanks, Jack. And on behalf of the nominating committee, I just want to say that the community is very lucky to have these 4 candidates stepping forward to contribute to the community in this way. All have very impressive backgrounds, very diverse set of skills and experiences that I know will be put to good use by Central Park United Neighbors. So with that, I'd like to propose a vote. Do we need a second on that?
Second.
I'll second.
Thanks.
I have 3 of those.
Before I should have afforded, Carol wasn't able to make it. Mark Mandel, did you want to add anything before we vote? Apologies.
I'm good with just going to the vote. I'm excited about the slate.
Okay, great.
Carol asked if she could vote remotely. I don't think we have a mechanism for that. So if she were here, she would be voting yes, but I don't think we're allowed to count it. I'm sorry. And so we have 2 board members absent.
Yeah. So I propose that we vote to approve the slate of candidates to join Central Park United Neighbors Board of Directors.
Approve.
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 Probably easier to say, does anybody
Does anybody not approve? Right.
Approve.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mandel.
I'll add now that I think we're all first, congratulations to our new board members. Thank you, and we're really lucky to have you. We're looking forward to working with you. And I'll also add that our board is now full for the first time in my nearly 4 years on the board. We have no vacancies, and that's a really exciting moment for our board.
Great, and so Jeff and Mark and Carol and Mandel served on the nominating committee, and so I just want to express my gratitude for the extra work and time that they put into really thoughtfully like going about a consistent process, cross-talking to everybody, and then of course each of the candidates. Thank you for the time you put into communicating what you have to bring to the community to us. So thank you for being here and for the time that's gone into this outcome. All right, and so we will dive back into regular business. Does anyone need a small break? So this is about the time that we would take a normal break. Does anyone need to just get up and move around? We can just keep going. Okay, we'll just keep going today. So I'm looking for Jeff Ederer. Jeff Ederer has gotten up to walk around. Okay, so I'll just start by today. So today was the day of the Central Park Business Association meeting, which happens on the third Tuesday of each month in the morning. You heard Lily and Eric talking about that, and so we were there. The same officers from the police department were there. We bookended the day with each other, but we were there talking about CPUN, asking for partnership with the organization, Central Park Business Association. And so Jeff, I'll let you take it from here. I think you might be muted a different way than how I can see that you're not muted. Okay, well, while Jeff is figuring out microphone issues, I'll just kind of.
Hey, Amanda,
Oh,
I can give a little bit of an update because while Jeff's getting his audio worked out. So Jeff and I met last week with Steve Galpern as well. So this goes sort of in connection to what you're talking about with the meeting with the Business Association. But we just thought it was a good opportunity to talk to a professional fundraiser. I don't know if many of you know Steve. His daughter, Cora, served on the naming committee and has been very active in the community as a young person growing up here in Central Park. And Steve has a long history of working in fundraising both for United Way and currently for Metro at the Auraria campus. And so Jeff and I, and this was really, Jeff was sort of leading this initiative and I was kind of acting as a co-pilot, but Jeff came up with the idea that since we're starting to reach out to people regarding giving money to CPUN for different initiatives, and Mark has presented us all with this exciting new technology, Nation Builder, I think it's called, that that we're interested in using in the community as we sort of move into the next phase of our community and also our neighborhood association. This seemed like a good time as we reinvent ourselves, as we move into the next sort of iteration of who we are, to start thinking about possibility of raising some money from donations from individuals or businesses that could be used for nation builder, but then also for maybe other community building and communication activities for CPUN. So we went to Steve, we kind of explained where we were as a neighborhood association, and that we had just had this new naming process, and there was a lot of energy in the community and a lot of energy on the board. And we asked him for just some ideas on how one would institute a fundraising plan and go about, you know, communicating to people who might be interested in putting money into the community in this way. And he gave us a lot of good ideas. We're still in very early stages of kind of figuring out how this plan would be put together. Jeff has drafted an early version of kind of a plan with some steps that we think we need to take to get things rolling. And we're kind of developing that and refining it. And so it's not yet at the point where we're ready to present it to the board. At least I don't think so. I haven't spoken to Jeff since we both kind of took a look at the plan. You know, just to kind of introduce the early stages of this fundraising effort that Jeff is really kind of taking the lead on, and I'm and helping in any way I can. We've taken the initial steps, and maybe I'll leave it there in the hopes that he has his audio fixed and can pick it up from here.
Okay, folks, can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm working off my iPhone here, so I think I missed most of what you said, Jeff. Perhaps in an interest of not repeating anything.
So Jeff, I just gave an overview that kind of like the impetus for this with the name change and the kind of new energy in the community, and that we met with Steve last week, and you took the initial steps to put together a plan, and we're refining it now, and I left it there.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the idea is that we would build a fundraising plan that would be ongoing, in part, well, I would say primarily right now, to cover the cost of this nation builder program that we're looking at utilizing. But I think what we're realizing too is it's a way for us to really reach out to the community and to our partners in the community. For instance, the reason for us going to the Central Park Business Association meeting this morning, to really see how we can take what we're doing and do it more effectively. So there's a cost to that. And if we can create a program that provides ongoing funding for that, that's certainly the aim at this point. And then we'll see where it goes from there. So, Amanda, did I miss anything else? Because I'm a little rattled that I couldn't figure out how to get my volume going.
Well, Jeff, do you want to talk a little bit about your meeting with the Business Association today?
Sure. So I'm actually a member of both CPUN and CPBA. And Justin Ross, who's the president, I had a conversation with him some weeks ago about the idea that the CPBA could help fund the cost of this Nation Builder program. I think it's going to take a few different donors, but certainly there's some synergy that can be realized between the two different groups. And I'm spitballing here, but probably about 150 members of the Central Park Business Association. So about 150 different businesses that are folks located in the Central Park community. Some live here, some have businesses here, a lot of them both. And so they're interested in, I think, contributing, but also being able to get word out. And so it's a natural connection for that group sort of collectively as a CPBA, and certain individual businesses who may find it beneficial to spend some of their marketing budget towards funding the CPUN's efforts via this Nation Builder program. So that was our approach with the group this morning. I think we're still figuring out how this all works. I've been involved working in universities for years and having to help make pitches and stuff for raising funds. But as I like to say, I've always been the one who's been handed the talking points, not the one who's developed it or figured out how the mechanics are going to work. So while I feel comfortable with this type of effort, I think there's still a lot that we need to learn. So therefore, Jeff and I going to Steve, where his expertise matches well with our needs, has been certainly helpful. And I think we're learning a lot from that.
Did you get any pushback, direct pushback, or receive any skepticism from the meeting this morning, Jeff?
I did not interpret any. I thought there was a lot of interest. I think the biggest thing is, we sort of gave them the skeleton of what we're thinking of, and I think they'd like a little more information. But I think there's a high level of interest. I didn't interpret any pushback in terms of interest, and I don't know, Amanda or Mark, if you feel the same. I think you probably do. It's just a matter of us figuring out how to explain it and what the parameters would be, essentially the structure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amanda.
I think, just some of the people on the call didn't feel like they were senior enough members in the organization to like share an opinion. So there's like an element of that. And then I guess some of the other people were like, this needs to be, taken of the 20 people on the call, they wanted, the 150 people to have more information. So it seems like they were warm to the idea, but would like more. So I guess we just need to follow up in writing with maybe some of the same proposal that we sent to the Foundation for Sustainable Urban Communities, because it's already pretty well fleshed out and that. So that's one place where we can get more information that's already ready to hand them.
The only thing I'd add too is that the meeting was not super well attended, so I think they just wanted to make sure they weren't making a decision from like 3 or 4 or 5 members on behalf of the 150 they have. So that's why they want some stuff in writing, is to make sure they all can read up on it.
Yeah, I think the next step at this point is I'm going to get in contact with Justin and do some work there, and then also Jeff Barron and I hopefully will be able to go with get this draft of what the fundraising plan would be, which is a pretty rough draft right now, but get it to our fellow board members. Jeff B, I'm ideally thinking maybe we can send them a draft by the end of the week, so they can at least start asking questions about what they're reading.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we got from the conversation with Steve is that the more specific we can be, the better in terms of what we're asking for and why someone might be interested in giving it. I mean, we're still kind of thinking about these things in sort of grand themes, and we need to really hone in on exactly what is important about why we're asking people, and be able to say it in a pretty concise way. So Jeff and I are definitely working on that. And the other thing is that we're asking for something that is not a one-time cost, but a continuing cost. So we have to think about how we would ask for something. Maybe people or an association or individuals would be interested in giving money over a period of time to support something, rather than just a one-off donation to CPUN. So yeah, there's still some things that we're sorting through, and then also just how we're going to recognize people if they give to us. Like I would think businesses would be interested in being acknowledged for contributing to their community. So we just have to kind of think through those kinds of things. But like I said, Jeff took a really got us pretty far with a first draft. I looked at it and kind of given comments, and we're still putting it into more of a final form to then share with the board, because I know there's a lot of experience on the board, maybe more than Jeff and I have in terms of this kind of thing and language that is specific towards this kind of an effort. But it seems like we've got a good start. We have we're already identifying potential donors and putting a plan together.
Thanks, guys, for that effort. I think one of the things that I heard pretty clear from Justin in an earlier meeting that I attended was that last point, Jeff B, that you made about how businesses would be recognized.
Yeah.
He spoke about advertising space on the site or something akin to that, right? So the extent to which those packages can be defined for people with a price tag associated with them would probably be valuable. And I think
that's interesting.
And I think Nation Builder, if that's the way we want to go, there are options there, but they may be pretty well defined in and of themselves based on the functionality that that platform allows. So perhaps, Mark, if you know how that works, you might be able to help us to define what options for advertising space or something else might already be baked into the platform.
We can build into something we want. Like if they have a graphic we want to stick somewhere and have it show up on every page, there's some ways we can build that in. Just a question of how we want to do that. It's not necessarily set up for you to do advertising per se, but adding graphics and stuff isn't necessarily that hard. And then the thing that came up today, or that's come up a couple times, is the idea of having events that they can put on an event calendar and having like a community event calendar with lots of groups that are on there that might be useful both in terms of the community and all the small groups out there, as well as, you know, potential groups that want to sponsor us.
And Mark, is it possible to do, like you see it sometimes where there's an organization and they're, you know, funded by the Ford Foundation or whatever, and it just got logos sort of at the bottom of the page that, is it possible to do things like that?
It should be. I mean, like every website usually is built so that you have a header and a footer, and then the content that kind of comes in the middle. And usually you would put that kind of thing, yeah, in your footer. I haven't used the package in a little while, so I'm not 100%. It might depend on exactly which of the templates we use, but it should be, yeah. I mean, we should be able to put, you know, sponsored by at the bottom or along the side or something like that, or have a way to include it easily in every page.
It's a little,
I don't know if the Ford Foundation will fund us, but you know.
Oh, well, yeah. Why not? I mean, it's a little chicken and the egg, right? I mean,
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's also the opportunity, and what MCA does is they have people fund their emails every month. And so in addition to the website, we could also have a package around the monthly emails that we send out. And we know that, you know, right now we're hitting about 11,000 people. So with, you know, words that businesses might want to know is, you know, with about a 50+% open rate. So that's, you know, 5,000 or 6,000 impressions, which is a pretty significant number of impressions. So we have much more traffic on our emails than we do on the website. So, you know, I've got, and we can get those stats if people want to know, but we may want to push people towards sponsoring the emails versus the website. I mean, we could do both, but you know, between us, we get a lot more traffic on emails than we do on the website.
That's a good point.
Brian, that's good to know. Yeah, I honestly think that if we can figure out the structure of this, that going out and asking for money, this does not feel like a lot of money to have to raise. You know, that's where I feel a little bit more comfortable, quite honestly, is asking people for money. As long as we have something that's of value to them, which I think we do, and we're asking for relatively small amounts of money compared to other programs that I've gone and asked for money for. I think we can do well. It's just figuring out all these logistics.
I think one of the problems we've had in the past is this is not an unsustainable amount of funding. We just have to have word commitment that somebody's going to do it year after year. Because once we make the commitment to Nation Builder, it's kind of hard to go back. So
well, I think the hope is that this will be seed funding for maybe like 2 years from the foundation and from the Greater Stapleton Business Association, and then within those 2 years, we need to have this package combination of interested funders who would then sustain it for the longer term. But this would give us like the startup money to get going with it. We'll have the donate button on the website for goodwill donations, but it'll be important to emphasize that we're still an organization that is free and open to all who live here with no fee for membership. So we will move away from this funding source eventually, and like through the packages that both Jeff with the J's are saying that they're developing right now.
Well, it's like when we talk to Steve, I mean, he does this professionally, and a lot of it is just about building relationships with people who are interested in contributing to the community. On top of that, we have something of value in that we have exposure for people who have businesses and are just interested in kind of promoting that they're active in the community through our email. Steve brought up some ideas in terms of sustainability. One idea is kind of creating a pyramid, and this is in the plan that Jeff and I are refining, that you could have different tiers of how you want to support CPUN. And then also there's the possibility of getting people to commit to, say, like a 3-year contribution. So they would, when they actually commit, it would be, to give 3 years at a certain level to give us at least some stability over a period of time. But I think this is something that if we do it right and we do it intelligently, we'll have a way to just sort of be in communication with people on a semi-regular basis who are interested in supporting the organization, which will hopefully give us sustainability in the future. And like Jeff said, we're not asking for an enormous amount of money here, really. Even if we do Nation Builder and maybe a few other programs that we think are really important, we're still talking about a fairly small amount of money for a community this size. But we want to do it right, I guess, is the point. And the other thing I would just say is, like, we're at a really exciting time in our organization and also in the community. So we want to tap into that enthusiasm before people start to think about other things and start to kind of move on, which is natural. So we're not rushing to do this, but at the same time, Jeff and I are trying to do it in a way that we can at least tap into whatever enthusiasm is definitely there from the name change and kind of the community renewal.
Yep. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add about the fundraising concept at this time? So that's just kind of an update that everything is still in progress. And again, the immediate need is that we can no longer even send one community email for free every time we communicate with the community at this point. Comes with a fee because of the size of our listserv, because of our success in reaching the community. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, one thing we haven't talked at all about, because we talk about sponsorships, but the other thing that I think we can think about doing is merchandising of some sorts. It's not that hard to set it up to do, like selling t-shirts and stuff like that and make some money off of that. It's not necessarily going to be a huge part of the budget, but the way I've always approached fundraising when I've worked for some other nonprofits is to break it up into many small pieces as possible, because most of the campaigns I work with, it's impossible to get one donor to pay for everything, and generally doesn't happen. But if you can break it up into a lot of categories, so if you guys want me to take a look at whatever proposal and help draft anything, let me know. I'm happy to do that, because I do have some fundraising experience in the nonprofit world.
Yeah, and when we have the logo that emerges from this process, I feel like it'll be a little bit easier to imagine the merchandising using that. I don't know that we're positioned to do it yet. I mean, it's all kind of coming together. It's like once the website through, I guess Mandel asked us recently if we had voted to officially move forward with the Nation Builder plan versus the other proposal, which would have been to do a build out through WordPress and then something, and then I guess we would maintain it after that. But yeah, we seem to have really homed in on Nation Builder as the approach. And so I know Mandel wanted to communicate back with someone who had given us a bid if that's in fact the way that we're going. So now sounds actually like an appropriate time to make sure that we're communicating with the parties who need to hear back from us on a bid that's sitting out there. Do we want to commit to Nation Builder as we're moving forward, since we've kind of proposed that to some funders at this point? It seems like maybe that's the direction, if the funding comes through, that will be going.
I don't think
that, I mean, I think, oh, sorry, Jeff. I was just going to say, isn't that where we left it? That if we get the funding, that's the direction we're going. But the funding, we need to get at least enough for a year to give us time to get some more funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we can get the Mark, sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, I was going to say, out of respect for the bid that Mandel solicited for WordPress, I think he should let them know that we are trying to pursue funding for Nation Builder. That is our preference, but until we hear back from the foundation or from Central Park Business Association about what kind of seed funding we can secure, I don't think we can make a commitment to one platform or the other. It could be that, you know, we get just a percentage of it and the WordPress solution becomes the more viable one, right?
Okay, thanks.
Can I jump in too?
Yes.
A few different things. One, just a reminder, it's actually the Central Park Business Association now. It's the Greater Stapleton Business Association name has been retired. The other thing is, Amanda and colleagues here, I think we need to know about where we're at with the Foundation for Sustainable Urban Communities as far as that grant request, because that will help frame what we're asking for from the CPBA. Do we know when we're going to receive word on that?
I haven't heard back yet, but I think it's okay to follow up with an email at this point. I'd communicated it with him last week, but I'll ask again now.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is, I think, Brian, you said 1 year, and I know, Amanda, you said 2 years, and I know that's been bouncing around in my head. I think ideally, if we had 2 years to build this up, that's a real help to make sure we get this right, because there's a lot of things we could stumble over if we feel we need to rush things. For instance, the collection of money and how we demonstrate that it's being used correctly and such. You know, that there's a lot of levels to that in itself. So I want to make sure we get those things right. Last thing I'll mention too is, you know, we also, you know, want to make sure we're setting our target correctly. For instance, I don't want to ask somebody for, you know, to donate $25, but then we give them $500 worth of free marketing because of that. I mean, that's an exaggeration of how much, but, you know, things like that to price that out, that's going to take us some time to work through before we roll things like that out. Because if we under price something and then we're like, oh, we should raise this, then it's can come across in crappy ways to people when suddenly we're asking them to pay $300 for the same thing that they just paid $150 for the year before.
Yeah, good point, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay.
So we can get through this stuff though.
Well, and like while Jeff and I are working on the kind of the plan and next steps in terms of where we're going in terms of, you know, fundraising outside of the foundation, I would say, the foundation grant request. It would be helpful if, Brian, you mentioned that there are some statistics you could put together for us just in terms of what is, you know, open rates and number of people and that kind of stuff. If we can start to, if someone has access to that information and can start to accumulate it, that seems like a good parallel effort while Jeff and I are kind of working on kind of the next steps on the plan.
Yeah, we have, I have all that. I will, I'll put something together on both the email open rates and then what we see from Google on the website. Now, granted, you know, we will do different things using Nation Builder to drive more traffic. But at least as a base, I think we should under promise and over deliver on what we're seeing.
That sounds great.
Agreed. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, Gina. And your daughter is beautiful, by the way.
Oh, that's my granddaughter. She's a mess. She likes Zoom. Have you guys thought about doing just the start of like online auctions where we get like some jerseys donated from like the Broncos, the Nuggets, get some paintings and just start there small with online auctions?
Honestly, no, not yet. I think our focus so far has been really with those opportunities of people and organizations that are within the Central Park community. I think that's an excellent point, though, that I'll definitely make a note of. You know, my concern when I hear a lot of these things, for instance, you know, getting T-shirts and you know, selling those and using funds from those and these sort of things is they do take a lot of administration to pull these things off. And so we just want to make sure that we have the human resources to be able to make these things happen.
Yeah, we will be better positioned for sales through the website once we've converted to the new website as well. And so maybe that'll be less of a daunting task once we have that mechanism in place. But I guess perhaps it's something that we haven't considered because we're really just not set up for that sort of thing at this time.
But I think that's a great point. And I want to encourage folks, if you think of things like that, you know, send it along to Jeff or myself, and I'll certainly take notes and put it on the list of possibilities.
And Jeff, the other thing is that while not ideal in our current environment using vertical response and using the Google Sites, we can put logos on the pages and the emails. So we don't have to wait for Nation Builder if people are willing to commit now. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve brought up one point that kind of relates to this as well, which is that, you know, given COVID, it's just very difficult to do the kinds of things you would typically do as an organization like us. Like we could have, you know, someone host a dinner and have people show up from the community and, you know, and do kind of an ask at an event like that, or, you know, so we have to be creative, I would say, especially given where we are and we just don't know how long this is going to be. So yeah, all ideas, auctions or whatever people come up with are definitely good ideas to take, because I think we're going to have to be a little creative in how we do this. Even taking someone to coffee is more complicated right now than it would be under normal circumstances.
You could drink coffee through your mask.
Yeah, just get a straw or something.
You don't even need to pre-filter the coffee. Just grind the beans, shove it against your mask.
Just have the beans, have the grinds inside the mask and just take hot water through it. That's a good idea.
Okay, so just to kind of recap where we are, we have the immediate term need of bringing in a funding source so that we can continue to successfully communicate with the community. Hopefully that'll be of a size that'll allow us to make that commitment to move platforms, which will then allow us to get to other funding sources. So right now we're looking at getting that 2-year funding set up, as well as what a plan would be for the longer term sustainability. So it's a lot of moving parts, but there's progress being made, and I'm going to finish an email to Brian Weber as soon as we are off of the meeting. Yes, Rick.
Yeah, and I might have missed this, Jeff or Brian, but do we have do we have a little talking point sheet that talks about the total dollars that we're needing, that we need to address? And I mean, we've talked around a whole bunch of this kind of stuff tonight, but if we had that summarized into 6 or 8 different bullet points that we could hit with folks.
I will just offer that I think we have an excellent set of talking points somewhere in the left rear quadrant of my brain, but I have not pulled that out of there yet.
Well, when you get that together, if you can circulate it, I'd be happy to kind of kick it around and talk to folks about it, which we can do, remotely, socially distanced at this point in time. But I think that, as we approach this kind of like starting a business plan is what do we think we need for a base and dollars, and what can float as subjective asks and that kind of thing. But appreciate everybody's work on it, though. Thanks.
Yeah, but Mark does have a business plan that we sent to the foundation. So I think Jeff Eder, if you haven't seen that talks about it. But I mean, I think we've been operating on about $1,000 a year operating expenses, which we've been working. The MCA has funded some of that. But I think any plan we have, whether it's Nation Builder or whatever, we do need to put together a little bit more to make sure that we don't forget that we do have other operating expenses.
And there's a challenge, and the challenge here too. I mean, one of the things that Steve said almost immediately is like, people don't give for technology. It's not a typical thing that people want to give. Now we're asking for a lot less money than Metro goes and asks people for, obviously, but we need to think about how we present that as well. If we're going outside of, if we're going to a greater, to the Central Park Business Association, or we're going to individuals, we have to be able to tell it in a way that's more than just, hey, we need operating expenses, because that's not what people typically give towards, according to Steve. So these are the kind of things, in the left quadrant of Jeff's mind, we have some ideas, and we're trying to refine these things, but we're open to any input. Don't wait for us necessarily to provide you with something. If you guys have any ideas or bullets, just please send them along, because the more we can get, the better.
Well, and I think to your point, Jeff, that for the Central Park Business Association, we go there for the ask, talking about how their businesses are going to get gain exposure through this. For other groups, it may be about how we're doing, how this is helping people unite around what's important to the neighborhood, and having tangible examples of what that is and stuff. So we'll be specialized to some degree, depending on what group we're talking to. But hey, Brian, on that, on the business plan of the Sustainable Foundation for Sustainable Urban Communities, I keep hearing that, and I keep thinking, God, I need to ask if I can get a copy of that. I'm not even sure if I have seen it. I may have. I don't remember if I did. It was before we really hatched this plan. So is it possible for you to send that to me?
Mark sent something. Mark,
I'm working on sending it to you now.
Yeah,
I'll send it around right now.
All right,
Okay.
so I'm going to move forward because we do have a couple of other things to talk about tonight, but I think that we've conveyed the range of possible ideas and where things are right now. So thank you, Jeff and Jeff, for the work that you're doing on this, and it's an ongoing effort. Okay. So then the next item up for discussion is just an update on the park renaming. Jeff Horsfall, I put this on the agenda, and we haven't really talked about it since our talk with Jack. I don't know that there's any. I mean, we had a conversation, and I don't know that there's anything to update at this time. Just that where it seems like it will be eventually, perhaps, a path with less resistance to go through the MCA for a public space renaming than it would be to go through the city. But it's just a matter of ensuring that we have the right parcel of land that would be a good fit for such a thing. Do you want to add anything else?
No, I think that's fair. I think specifically we were talking about the possibility of a Mosley Park, but in addition to that, the conversation with Jack brought to light the opportunity for some other parks that I think, Amanda, you and I didn't feel like were appropriate for pursuing the Mosley Park concept, but that might be appropriate for some other kind of community engagement or community outreach. I'm thinking of the ones on 35th and 23rd and some of those. So it's an effort that might be split in a way between a couple of different initiatives, but that's the result of a lot of different opportunities being available. And the MCA and Jack have expressed a great deal of interest in participating. But there's no doubt, there's no question that pursuing the MCA path will be far easier and simpler and faster than trying to go through the city.
Yeah. So just to summarize, Jack had highlighted maybe 4 parks that are named for like the cross streets where they're located. These are smaller MCA managed pocket parks. And then some of the median parks that don't even have names. Along 35th, there's a statue of 2 dogs. Along 29th, there's that giant fish. So those are public spaces that don't have, they don't have names other than just like the 35th Avenue.
It's not a fish, it's an eye, Amanda.
It's a fish.
It's not a fish. I was on the selection committee. It's called Eye on the Horizon.
No, I can find you a couple of my maintenance supervisors who would disagree with the both of you. So
I was on the selection committee and interviewed the artist. It is not a fish. I hated it at first.
At Western,
there's a sign that says "Eye on the Horizon."
Yeah,
more that's Stapleton on it.
Okay.
At Western Creek Elementary, they definitely call it the eye. That's where like the kindergartners make their walk to school on the first day. So you start at the eye, they say.
Okay.
I agree, Amanda. It's an eye. I mean, a fish.
Okay. I think I've offered you all a deeper look into my psyche where I'm looking at abstract art and interpreting it in such a way. So that was unintentional. Let's see. So those are some parks that would be possible to, and like I guess Jack was saying that especially for the pocket parks that are named for an intersection, that's where they would be completely open to a new name. But in terms of our needs and, you know, and taking a name that was well received by the community, I don't think assigning it to a smaller pocket park would be the right direction. So there's still some conversations that we're going to be having about how to move forward there. Sorry, we just haven't followed up since that last meeting. So anyway, so that's where that is. I don't think there's anything else to add. But does anyone have any questions?
How many parks are we talking about renaming?
Jack, I'll let you talk about that because that was you said that you were open to a community engagement process, and I think it's like 3 parks.
I mean, I'm open to renaming anything you want to rename. I'll just say that, you know, we just went through renaming a neighborhood, and I don't think there's a whole lot of appetite to just go around renaming everything that we see. I think there would be a path of very little resistance. We have 3 parks. There's a 24th Avenue Park, a 26th and Fulton Park, and a 36th and Wabash Park. Those are literally their names. Whoever named them was like asleep, and that's the best they could come up with. And so, you know, we would happily like to find, you know, a real name for those parks. We just haven't gotten to it yet. So, you know, in the broader context of wanting to, you know, name an open space, you know, Mosley or whatever other name, you know, we would be interested in naming it. Those were the 3 parks, you know, that I don't anticipate there being any pushback to, because right now they have, in my mind, there would be very little resistance to renaming 24th Avenue Park, because 24th Avenue Park, let's be honest, is just a bad name. So that's where where from a staff perspective we stand at the MCA. But we you know, I think that if a proposal was put together, there would, if there's something that doesn't have a name that we want to assign a name, I could see that happening. If there's, one of these parks that has cross street names that we want to, we get a better name for, I can see those happening, with there being a lot more appetite to do that rather than trying to rename, say, aviator pool. I don't think you could find anybody who would get on board with that. But, 24th Avenue Park, I think I could get a lot of people on board with that. So it would be kind of, what we collectively wanted to move forward with on that one.
And what process would we undertake to determine what names would be up for renaming parks? Obviously there were some names that were popular for the community that were ultimately not selected. Those seemed like obvious choices, but are we talking about implementing a new process to do this?
So yeah, that's a good question, and I don't think we know the answer yet. And when I sort of started down this path, it was with the idea of seeing if Mosley Park specifically was viable or not. What's come to light is that in addition to that, we have these other pocket parks that through some kind of community engagement process could be renamed. It seems like a good opportunity for the outreach committee or for this organization to keep the momentum going as far as interconnectedness, right? So I don't think any process has been determined. It's more about identifying which parks might be appropriate for that, and then we can have a discussion about what that would look like.
Okay.
All right, so that's this effort that's kind of also in progress right now. Does anyone else have anything to add at this time? Okay, all right.
We'll add that that if we do come up with, whatever name we ultimately end up proposing, it would have to go through a similar process where the MCA delegates would approve that, and it would go up to Brookfield and whatnot for their sign off. That's just the nature of the gig we live in. But I anticipate that if the delegates are on board, I see Brookfield being on board. But that is what that process would look like.
All right. Okay. All right. So then I have two slides that Carol had asked me to add, and she mentioned that that there might be two of the new board members who would be able to take this conversation in her absence. Is that true?
Well, I think Carol, I think Amanda, what Carol had indicated was she had a couple of things she wanted to bring up, and then Gina and Brad, I think, had both expressed some interest in going down some of these paths, and Carol was just going to have them mention or talk a little bit to that. So why don't I go ahead and handle the slide? Okay. And Gina and Brad, if you want to weigh in a little bit on some of the traffic safety issues. But Carol has been very proactive in looking at how to better our community with regard to safety. As in my capacity with the transportation group, I've been more reactive to things that people bring up and concerns and safety aspects come from that standpoint. But one of them that she's been pursuing is the pedestrian safety aspect. How do we get our school kids safely from home to school? How do we get our residents to the parks and to the retail commercial areas in the safest possible manner? One of those is slowing down traffic. You've seen some of the signs out there, 20 is enough. Looking at starting a grassroots movement with regard to slowing people down, slowing traffic down that passes through our community. There are certain rules and regulations that those have to comply with, but there are also other things we can do to slow that traffic down physically. And the other thing is crosswalks. In fact, we've got one right now that we're having some discussions about up on 56th in Dallas and 57th in Dallas, actually. And again, there are specific rules and regulations that govern crosswalks and where we can and can't use them. But we want to use all of the tools in our toolbox to make it as safe for people as we can.
She's also brought up the aspect, we call it the Transportation Committee. She's talked about potentially renaming that to something that more has a greater reflection on the aspects of safety issues that we deal with and that kind of thing. So we want to kick that around as a committee. We'd love to have some more people on our committee. That's why she's been reaching out, and that has apparently some good dialogues with Brad and Gina. I have not been involved in those. I appreciate everybody's interest who wants to be involved with making our community safer. Amanda, did you say there was a second slide?
It's education. It's not transportation.
Okay. Okay. And okay, very good. Well, just as an aside, I know that she's very interested in the aspects and programs that are going on with education in our community and how they're holding up under homeschooling and hybrid schooling and that kind of thing. And she'll be able to speak to that better at our next meeting. She apologizes for not being able to be here tonight. We've got a lot of things going on with the Transportation Committee right now, a handful of things, everything from the apartment complex and its impact on that's been proposed and its impact on local streets to, again, several of these resident submitted concerns throughout the community, which again deal primarily with vehicle speeds and truck traffic in our neighborhoods. So we'll continue to address those as we go forward. Again, Dana Hoffman is our best contact with the Transportation and Planning Committee group, and they have several projects planned out here. They were going to wait until probably after the first of the year to do some new traffic counts to see about some potential signal installations and some retiming to address some of the traffic backup that we have at peak hours on MLK and Central Park. So with that, I know Gina and Brad, or if you're still on, and just based on your conversations you've had with Carol, thoughts about traffic and safety and that kind of thing in the neighborhoods, or if not, we can follow up later. So
I can just say something pretty quick. I am working with Denver Streets Partners and also with Mothers Out Front. We've done a couple of classes, and I think Brad is in the same class. Mm-hmm. And with Mothers Out Front, I meet 2 classes a week, which we are talking about transportation. We've had one town hall already that just passed, and so we're working on another one to talk about transportation in the streets and finding out about the different the funding that's out there, bonds and stuff that are out there. Mothers Out Front has given me a lot of information on bonds out there that's available for the community that before we lose it. So it's like a use it or lose it.
Okay. I know Eric Herbst, who's not on the call any longer, who's with Northeast Transportation Connections, if there's person time required in like applying for like a bond funding or grant funding or something, I'm sure that he'd be happy to maybe, well, I'm going to volunteer him to help you apply for funding if that's, but he might be able to also lend a hand to direct funding that is externally available into the community. If you are personally aware of those opportunities, that might be a way to channel some effort to help with that.
And
just to create synergy. Yeah, thanks, Brad.
I've just had some conversations with Carol the last few weeks, mostly about just kind of surveying the community overall about kind of areas where they feel like certain intersections or certain streets aren't safe, and there's some easy ways that we could potentially do that. One is, you can create kind of like a custom Google map, and people could sort of tag areas or intersections where they feel it's unsafe. But in general, just trying to get a better grasp on how the community feels about intersections and streets that aren't safe, and then there's sort of those parallel campaigns, as Gina mentioned, around sort of 20 is plenty that Denver Streets Partnership is really pushing with the city and city council too. So
great.
we're
We
just talking
actually
about
have those intersections. So in the last 2 instances of community surveys, we've asked people to write the top 2 intersections they think need more attention. So we have that. I mean, it's not the most current. I can't remember how many months it's been since we've done a survey. But I mean, I think it's within the last year is the most recent one, and then maybe a year and a half before that. So I mean, like relatively recent, and I don't think any effort has, I don't know that that's actually, I can give that to you all and let you do something with that, because I don't think that there's been any action taken on it that I'm aware of. I think we've sent it, a previous transportation chair who's not on the board any longer had it, and it might have been sent to the city at one point, but I don't think anything else has come from it. Make a note to myself to do that. Okay, thanks. Thanks, guys.
Regarding those 20 is plenty, or what those signs that we have that are being placed out in different places, that they're actually illegal. It's considered a traffic calming device, and if any of the inspectors with the city see them, you'll get a ticket and be told to remove them. So I would just float that out there, that because it has a speed limit, which is different than the speed limit on the road, then it's considered an unlawful traffic calming device. I know I've had a conversation with a couple of residents about, they had their signs removed from in front of their yards. It's because the city saw them and said those can't be there. So I don't want people to get angry about that, but just putting that out there, that if
and
we
that's
put those,
Jack, is that the case for the tree lawn and the home side of the sidewalk, or is that only the case for the tree lawn? If someone were to put a 20 is plenty sign on the home side of the sidewalk, would that be fine?
I think it depends on how ambitious the inspector is. I know if it's in the tree line, they'll just take it right there. I think if it's in the private property, then they'll write you a ticket and tell you need to move it, but they don't have the authority to remove it themselves because it's not city property. But I mean, it's considered, at least from my conversations with the area inspector, he says those are considered traffic calming devices because they have a speed limit on there, and that speed limit is contrary to the actual speed limit of the road, and so they're illegal. To me, it's silly, but I don't make the rules.
Okay.
So Jack, would you? I'd sent you my contact information, and I'm sure you're going to ping me with yours. Why don't you do that, and I want to connect you and Carol so you can have that dialogue. Okay.
Oh boy.
Well, we just want to go forward with the best information available for everybody, and it's the same thing. These are all great things, and we need to continue to work on changing the rules that impact us and reflect on our community. But things like crosswalks and things like going to a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And Carol and I have talked about this before. I mean, the city is regulated and governed by some pretty broad and strict regulations. So it's like a couple of these streets out here. I talked with Dana Hoffman. I said, it'd be great if we could just sign them 15 miles an hour and slow, rather than putting in a speed hump or putting in a narrowed neck with a crosswalk, and just the aspect of painting crosswalks on the street is very highly regulated in the transportation world. So we have to work within those guidelines and work through them. So I just want to make sure that everybody's working off the same page. So.
And I think what you're talking about is the manual for uniform traffic control.
Yep.
And we
MUTCD and the ITE regulations. Yep.
And we have to use those at the MCA as well, because the MCA manages streets that haven't been turned over to the city yet. So I am well versed in the MUTCD and all of its complexity. So let's connect more on that.
Perfect. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, Rick, when you were talking about speed bumps and stuff, me and Carol has talked about, I informed of different pilot programs that are out there right now that we can get involved in. And we did talk a little bit about which streets but I explained to her that we have to be careful regarding speed bumps because the fire trucks and the ambulance have to be able to get into some of those. And she was talking about roundabouts as well that'll slow the traffic. So I'm getting her in contact with transportation at City and County of Denver, and the safety person that I've worked with before when I was working with HARP, and we got that pilot program out there. So we're going to try and work with them and see what we can do to get involved in the pilot program.
Good, good. No, I think that's all good stuff. And just like the speed humps and that kind of thing, there's operation and maintenance, snow removal, different things that come into play with that. And roundabouts, there are certain members in our community, our governing agencies that don't see them as great traffic calming device as others and that kind of thing. So lots of moving parts and dynamics that we need to deal with there, and appreciate everybody's. Brad and Gina would appreciate your input on the committee because it sounds like you're doing great things. So thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have a couple of minutes left. Let's go to that last slide. So this is the education slide that that Carol had asked me to add. So I'll just read the contents here. So she, like Rick was alluding to, is interested in pursuing what the community can do for schools, and thoughts of having a student non-voting member on the board. I mean, our meetings are open to the public, so I don't know that we would necessarily need to designate a non-voting board member. I think that any student who would want to attend is just welcome and encouraged to do so. And if we can provide some sort of like extra context, because there's such a steep learning curve with just all of it. Oh, which reminds me, so we have 4 new board members and we don't have an official onboarding process. That might feel frustrating, and I apologize. Mandel pointed out a while ago that, you know, there are going to be questions that linger about like what, like if you have an idea that you want to pursue something, just a couple of rules of thumb that we have, like, you know, we as an organization, like you heard me dancing around it when I was talking about the bond issues earlier, the bond and mill levy. It's like, well, we're not taking a position as an organization. So I did my best to just convey the information in a non-biased way. I don't think that I did a good job though. So, you know, you have to be careful of what you say, like as a member of the organization. You're always welcome to share your own opinion, but if we're going to do something as like in terms of like an action of CPUN, we would just need evidence of wider input from the community. So, you know, having said that, at the very tail end of our board meeting tonight, and declaring that there's if you would find it helpful to have just any one-on-one conversations, or like maybe another group like overview, you know, Jeff Horsfall is very thorough, and so perhaps he's actually like walked through like what we do as a board better than I did when bringing people onto the board before now. But I just want to recognize that you're new, you're going to have questions. We haven't given you a lot of information, and everything's always just kind of, you know, making progress. Mark, yes.
I don't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to suggest that along those lines, maybe it makes sense for us to have a discussion about our committees at our next meeting, since we kind of skipped most of it in June because of the renaming process. And now that we have 4 new members, it might make sense to kind of revisit who's going to be working on what and what those schedules look like, and if each of those committees has a plan. Obviously, that's going to be easier to do for some committees than others, because I think Jeff and I both admit that the sustainability stuff's been on hold for a while and probably stays to some extent that way until we can be in the same room with other people. But it might be good to make that a part of the agenda for next month.
That's a good idea. Okay, I've made a note to do that.
And next month's November, so I don't know when we're having our meeting next month. So
yeah, I did look at the calendar before tonight to see if it conflicted with Thanksgiving, but it's the 3rd Tuesday is the week before Thanksgiving. You know, it can happen that the 3rd Tuesday and Thanksgiving are in the same week, but that's not what we have going on next month. So hopefully, I think it'll be okay that we hold the 3rd Tuesday meeting in November. So we'll plan to just keep that on the calendar for next month. And then we can have a conversation about what to do about December, perhaps canceling December. Okay. So revisiting the slide, I keep moving the window of faces. So, okay, well, yeah, so there's the date for November. So I don't think we have anyone who's on the education committee on the call tonight. Is that right? So Aaron has resigned. Jeff, you're not on the education committee. Jay's not on the call, and Carol's not here. So, so that was kind of an unmanned slide, but also just conveying that there's a need for more. Brad, I know that you have an interest in education. Is there anything that you want to say at this time?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. So, you know, we have needs. We'll circle back to how to best align people with similar interests on the board in that upcoming weeks, and if not before the next meeting, then at the next meeting. But maybe just really quickly, the board members can just introduce themselves, because I don't think that we've done that. I'm sorry, now I'm running over, but can we please do that, just because we asked the new candidates to introduce, the new board members to introduce themselves, and then we didn't do the same thing.
I'm Rick Luthold, Transportation Committee Chair, been on for a little bit, live in Central Park West.
I'm Jeff Barron. Been on for a number of years. As you might have noticed, I'm interested in kind of the fundraising side. Done some things with safety in the past, and I live near Westerly Creek Elementary School.
Jeff Ederer.
Sure, Jeff Ederer here. I've been living in Eastbridge since 2005. I've been a board member for a little over 3 years now.
Okay, Brian.
Brian Penny, treasurer. I have lived in the community since 2003. I'm the resident old man historian for the board, and was one of the founding board members of the organization that is now CPUN.
16 years this spring. Brian's role on the board has been. Thank you. Sandra.
Hi, I'm Sandra, AKA a whistleblower, sitting in the dark, waiting for witness protection. So I joined the board this past May. So I'm no longer the newbie on the board. I've been in Central Park since 2011. And I am on the outreach, and I'm not sure if we merged outreach and inclusion, but I'm on the outreach committee.
Okay, I think there was some discussion of merging outreach and communication, but I mean.
Yeah, outreach and communications.
Yeah. Okay.
And I forgot to say that I live in on 29th Avenue near the Founders Green. So.
Okay. And then Mandel, I'll call your name, but I don't think you're going to talk, so I'll just pause. Okay, Mandel communicated earlier on that he's not going to be taking himself off of mute, but he did vote earlier, so hooray for that. And then back up to the top, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff Horsfall, you've all talked to me plenty. I live in Conservatory Green.
Okay, and then Mark. Oh, you are also on the committee. Okay, but I'll let you say hi.
Yeah, I'll say hi too. Yeah, I didn't actually get to tell them much about who I was, the new ones. I'm Mark Maringer. I've been on and off the board for 15 years now, and live in the South End, not far from where you are, Brad. Though I don't think I've seen your daughter looking around for doggies, and I do have one, so eventually we'll make that connection. And I don't know what else I should say, but yeah, I'm second in line for the old man on the board. So, but Brian has hung on strong for us. Oh, and I'm secretary. But if anybody wants that role, I'm always willing to give it up.
He's not kidding. I'm third in line for the old man role in that case. I think I've been around for 12 years, and Mark's been intermittently on a little bit longer than that. And I live close to the Jetstream pool area in Central Park North. And I don't know, over time, I was involved with sustainability initially and outreach for a couple of years, education projects on and off. But I don't know, I just kind of have my fingers in everything at this point, but I'm letting other people do the main work. So, you know, we've kind of shared the roles that we have. Mandel is on the call, and he's been chairing the Inclusion and Diversity Committee this year. And we mentioned education, and safety is another one where we have I don't know, some refinement that we'd like to see with the messaging that Denver police is communicating with the community, to like maybe just put the crime stats in more context, that sort of thing, and also just language around, and ensuring that we're talking about like suspicious behavior and never suspicious people, and just reinforcing that that's how community watch is approached here and really everywhere across the city. So that's just some ongoing work that we're taking on, and we'll talk more next month. And I'm sorry for running over in a meeting that had a light agenda. But thank you and welcome, new members. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Likewise.
All right. I think.
Good night, you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.